How's it going, everybody? International Master Danny Rensch back again today with Week 5 of the US Chess League highlights. And we are here to do what we've done for the first 4 weeks of the season, and that is bring you a portion of the games that were played on Tuesday and Wednesday nights here on Chess.com, right here in the live chess arena. If you're not following the games, I don't know where you are on those evenings, but probably not doing anything important. So why don't you get your priorities in order and join us. We also have Chess TV coverage, of course, on those nights of the US Chess League. So right now, what I wanted to do was run through my favorites, right? I get to pick my few faves from the week and try to pick some games that I felt were maybe more significant than others, though every game is important, right? We're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings here. And I wanted to highlight some of the instructive moments and the moments that I found to be interesting. So let's do this thing once again. In this game, we had Emil Anka as black against Daniel Naroditsky. So Naroditsky versus Anka. Daniel Naroditsky, probably one of the most improved players from last season, if you think about it. Just the fact that he has gone from IM to GM, although I think officially he's still a GM-Elect, but clearly just become one of the strongest players in the league and been playing very well. So the fact that this game did not go his way and the fact that he was playing the white pieces is probably, you could argue, maybe one of the biggest upsets of this particular week. And in this position, Emil Anka being faced with some development issues over here on the queen side. These pieces not quite as happy as they need to be. And I think if you look at this position and are worried about white's advance of d5, let's say as an amateur, you might play a move like e6, which would be terrible as far as your structure, weakening the dark squares, and or maybe even try for some idea of getting the bishop fianchetto to the other side of the board and maybe meet d5 with a move like knight a5. And none of those moves are very good. And though the move played here is not totally a brilliant move, I wouldn't say, by Anka, but definitely a very dynamic move and a very thematic move for players of all levels to keep in mind, and stressing this development and activity before material. In this position, Anka played the move d6, exclam. Very nice move. Not meeting e takes d6 with the idea of taking back, which I'm not exactly sure what Naroditsky might have played here. Maybe knight e4, maybe d5, but black is still down in development and worse. Maybe even a simple move like h3, which keeps the bishop out of that square. Probably guarantees white an edge here for some time, given the fact that this bishop actually doesn't have many good squares when you consider that can't go to d7 because of the d6 pawn, can't go to e6 because of d5, and f5 is sort of a target to a number of moves that might come up. So black would have been in a world of hurt, but Anka's idea is, of course, this move bishop g4, a very strong move that completes the development, and all of a sudden the entire evaluation of this position changes. Black has active pieces. He's threatening to win back the pawn on d4 immediately. And it's not like black is winning or anything, but equality is certainly just right around the corner. And the whole tempo of the game changes with white's development advantage pretty much disappearing within a couple moves. And after a few more seemingly natural-looking moves, d5 and knight to d4, it looks like black might be taking here, destroying white's kingside, and with it having more than enough compensation for the pawn. And this is when this game gets exciting. I know this is actually probably a little bit more of a slower pace than you guys are used to as far as the highlights that I've done here, really bam, slam in your face, but trying to be a little bit slower here today and really break down some of these games a little more. In this case, after d6 and queen to d7, black, as we highlighted, threatening to bust open white's kingside with firepower. White senses an opportunity to play something very dynamic and counteract with his own interesting approach to the position. With this move, queen takes d4 and knight takes d4, all of a sudden we're evaluating a position where white actually has only 2 knights for the queen, but a very strong pass pawn on d6, and threats of bringing this knight from c3 into other squares, like e4, which might hop into c5 or f6. And when I was first evaluating this game and watching it live, I was so excited. You all know that I'm a little bit of a sucker for a queen sack, right? Can't quite avoid turning my head on that one. So I was really excited to see whether or not Daniel was going to find compensation. And as we learn in a lot of unbalanced material positions, it's the ability to create threats and to target weaknesses that really defines who can keep the initiative, and that's so important. So in this game it didn't work out, but it's just as instructive to see Anka's defense here and how he parries away the threats one by one. First, this move f6 is just super nice. Takes away the threat of the knight coming to f6. And actually, I think increases communication of the pieces potentially to guard the 7th rank. Also keeps some other pieces out of some different squares. So nice move f6. Retreating the bishop. Black, of course, doesn't really fear simplification. You never really fear simplification when you have the one piece versus the conglomerate of pieces against your majors. So rook f to e1, rook f to e8. I'm going to go a little bit fast here because, one, I have several other games I want to get to, and I don't want this video to turn to a 30-minute lecture. You all know I have a tendency to talk just a little bit too much sometimes. And so I'm going to whiz through a few moves and just highlight some of the critical ones. After rook a to d8, Anka is not afraid of the coming tactics, and I think this is sort of a critical moment because even though it worked out that Naroditsky executes a tactic that wins a little bit more material for the queen, the fact that white has to settle on the combination that Naroditsky did is sort of a sign of things to come, that there really doesn't exist enough compensation in this case for the queen. What am I talking about? Well, after rook takes d7, he executes this combination where he wins the pawn, and now all of a sudden he actually has a rook and a minor for the queen currently. But the issue is that often the person with the queen versus a couple minors, even a rook and a piece, as long as the position is simplifying and becoming more open, basically creating better chances for that one major piece to outplay the minors or outplay the rook and a minor, then usually all roads are leading to Rome for that person with the queen. And so the fact that Daniel, when we got to this position, didn't quite have enough, and he took time on the clock here, there wasn't any other type of way to increase pressure. Black is actually threatening to play f5 in some positions. And so the fact that Naroditsky is settling, I would call it, on rook takes d7 is a sign that really there probably doesn't exist enough here for white. So an exciting queen sec nonetheless, but really that's good when you're evaluating how you should play these kind of positions as black. You shouldn't be afraid of those types of tactics and, maybe play an awkward move like this rook to d8 to avoid that whole combination that happened. This would leave black's pieces still struggling for coordination and white with all the pressure, all the cards, as you say. And so it's a good lesson, I think, that Anka just allows this. Naroditsky realizing he doesn't have enough. And after queen to d8 and queen a5, we start to see the queen doing her thing, right? Doing the dirty work of attacking things on all sides of the board. And that's where she's at her best. So a few more moves were played here. Sorry for the thing being a little jumpy. And when Naroditsky settles on knight e6, it's really nothing but another good simplification despite the strong d6 pawn. I think that though white has some compensation here, it's not an ideally coordinated setup where you might see maybe the bishop on e5 already being supported by an f4 pawn. In this case, the bishop would be holding down the queen side, holding down the d6 pawn, and I find it very hard to believe black could have won. So just really a strong evaluation by Anka that really white is not coordinated well here, and so sacrificing into the endgame where you're up the exchange, continuing with that principle I said, that simplification usually helps the person with the major piece versus the conglomerate of pieces. And Anka gets the rook active, white never achieves full coordination, and before you know it, pieces are falling. And Naroditsky, so far one of the heroes of the early part of the U.S. Chess League, goes down in flames, a huge upset, probably not one that San Francisco really expected to happen, but one that Anka definitely deserves all the credit, and one that I probably just spent way too much time on, right? Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, and now we move on to the next SportsCenter-style highlight here of the U.S. Chess League. Thank you, everybody, for watching Week 5 highlights of the U.S. Chess League. Once again, don't forget, you can follow all the action live on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. We also cover all the games on Chess.com TV. You can join the fan clubs if you really want to get the party started, and make sure you follow the U.S. Chess League on Twitter and follow me on Twitter. I'll see you around on the main site.